You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Derry Bennett, Quad Bennett, welcome. Heat, Michael Hatzer, welcome, everybody. Hello, howdy, welcome. I hope everyone had an awesome weekend. Folks, we had a freaking blast doing a impromptu movie event. Pretty freaking cool. Yeah, Zombieland. If you want to participate in these events, then I highly recommend to join the Discord server. We're gonna do another one this upcoming weekend, this Saturday at about 6 p.m. We'll be doing the Rocky Horror Show. The Rocky Horror Show. So join us if you want to watch it, and then we will be doing the official movie night, which the official movie night is the last Saturday of the month. The next one, October 26th. And I believe so far the winner for that movie night I think is going to end up being The Nightmare Before Christmas, simply because like I feel like it's just too perfect. It's just too perfect to make to be on theme. So I don't know. I feel like it works. I feel like that works. I'm dressing up for both. Heck yeah. All right, folks, before we get started, make sure that you're joining us on the Discord, !Discord if you want the invite, and join us for some awesome movie night stuff. Also, if you want to support the channel, there are many different ways. Consider checking out the merch store, which I'm very proud of, and consider also supporting your streamer directly by hitting the ! Tip. Thank you all, and I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel go. So thank you all. Thank you all for helping, and thank you for your support. It is very much appreciated. Devigny, welcome. All right, folks. We gotta get going. We're gonna make it a nice, short, and sweet stream. Let's do it. But we've got a lot to cover. Okay, I think we should start here. Let's just do it.
Here's Donald Trump weighing in on policy on Newsmax with an interesting theory about how you can fund government. I don't know if he's coming out for MMT here or just simply say, like, I have a different way. We sell watches.
Blame always seems to go on her end to corporate price fixing and vilifying the corporations and the companies in this country. When asked how she's going to pay for the agenda last night,
just to be clear, corporations are the villain in this case. Yes, the reason why corporations are being vilified is because they are. They are being villains, right? Like, just to be clear, there's nothing wrong with making sure that certain things like food don't get price gouged. So setting caps for that and setting restrictions for that, you know, are okay.
On 60 Minutes, she just keeps saying she's going to tax the rich. Even Bill Whitaker on 60 Minutes is saying, well, we live in the real world. How are you really going to do that?
Yeah, by taxing the rich, I see nothing wrong with that. What's the problem here? yeah, tax the rich. Yeah.
Well, you don't tax the rich because the rich are going to look. The rich pay most.
Like, you know, I think there's like some like. There needs to be a study on this, okay? Like, what level of irony are we here, where we're having a conversation about like public programs, and you bring on? I mean, like, mind you, you know, we're this is Newsmax we're talking about, but like, you know, like, what levels of irony are we here that we're talking about programs, like public programs that could potentially help people, and like. One of the propositions is like, hey, we're taxing, like we're going to propose like tax wealthy people more. So naturally, the thing you do is bring on like an oligarch to weigh in on that, and like the first thing out of that oligarch's mouth is like, well, you don't tax the rich, okay? You don't tax the the rich. That's like the first thing that he says. Like, no, duh, right? I won't be able to feed my doggy caviar if I help fund public schools.
Of the tax in the country, first of all. You know, people hate
That's
to
not
hear
true.
it. They hate to hear it. But you take a certain very small percentage, and most of the tax is paid by the rich. But the problem that she has is she's going to the communist method. Take all incentive. And you know what the rich do? And the
Yeah, so there's nothing communist about like increasing taxes on the rich, okay? That's not a communist agenda, okay? Communists are interested in public ownership of the means of production, right? Like that's what communism is interested in. Having a scenario where there's still massive private interest, you're just taxing them more, is not communism. Okay, that's not what that word means. What's actually happening here, not that it needs to be said here, but what's actually happening is Donald Trump is just like protecting his own. Donald Trump is protecting his own butt here. That's what's happening. That's what's really happening here, right? Like, you know, the fact that like she even dared to propose like a penny more in taxes, right? Like these people are gonna throw a fit. That's true. We all know Kamala was in the trenches with Che Guevara and secured the demolition with the help of Hugo Chavez. Oh, man. Do you support the expansion of nuclear energy and communism? Yes. Corporal Fly, welcome. What's the good word? Well, if we got a good word, I'll let you know. Hey, your neighborly sheet poster. I've seen your username before. Are you a regular on the Majority Report? Or you're a regular? I'm pretty sure I've seen your username before. Like you're a regular on a channel. I just can't pinpoint it right now. I tried that on Biden. Can we talk about Tenet Media? What, the Russian operation? I don't know. I just roam around and tell dad jokes. Okay. I feel like I've seen your name. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyways, welcome anyways. I'm angry. Okay. I heard of a third assassination attempt. Yeah, that was pretty debunked already. It was not an assassination attempt. The Russians have invaded every part of our media and nobody cares. Well, they've invaded a lot of right-wing media because, well, it fits, right? Sheep Poster has been here a bit. Hello again. Oh, okay. All right. I used to be a cornerstone of being American to be able to hate Russia. Now you get called a snowflake. Okay. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but okay.
Corporations do. They leave the country and they go to another country that's more friendly from a tax standpoint and other standpoints like a regulation standpoint. Her agenda will bring us in to a 1929 style depression, and it's guaranteed. She has no idea what
Blame always.
He's so obsessed with the turn of the 20th century. He's been saying over and over that he's William McKinley, which, like, I think historians actually might agree in terms of his tariff proposal, but it also ushered in the Gilded Age, which also then led to the Great Depression.
Yeah, the very height of the Gilded Age, like he's talking about.
It fits.
I read the back of a book on early 20th century history, and I haven't gotten to that part yet. So I will be getting there.
He picked the least interesting candidate to have a spiritual connection with who was assassinated, or president. He could have been JFK or Abe Lincoln, but no, he's William McKinley.
It's because that's what he grew up like thinking about. Like as a child, his parents would probably tell him, like, the Gilded Age was really great.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murdering scum that run giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. Is that like the copy pasta that's going on? Is that what's happening to Simulacra? Welcome.
Oh yeah, I mean he's essentially Mr. Magoo, but as a presidential candidate.
Oh, that's from the Alex Jones song. Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness.
Just wanted to just address two of the things that he said here, so that just doing our due diligence. First off, it is the case that the rich pay more of the taxes in the country, but they do not pay commensurate with the amount of.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
Wealth they have.
Sorry.
They control such an enormous amount of the country's wealth. And you go where the money is. And we should also say, just as a sheer numbers game, that's the reality of it. As for a fairness question, the people who have benefited the most from society, owe more to that society.
True.
B, have probably benefited more with a combination of luck and the fact that it's structured towards those people.
Yeah. How lucky is it that all these laws benefit me?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, whether it was, sort of like vestiges of racism or ongoing racism for that matter. I mean, like, look, talk about housing, the number one way that intergenerational wealth builds
is with property.
If you were black in this country, you couldn't get a mortgage. Even frankly, in the lead up to the financial crisis, and I would imagine now we can find evidence of it being more difficult for black people to get mortgages. But certainly it was like literally the law to perfectly legal to deny certain cohorts of people more, mortgages and loans or charge higher rates, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of who you tax, of course you tax the rich.
Right.
I happen to believe you don't need to use taxation.
Like also like even if that was the case that like, oh, you tax the rich, you tax the rich more, so what? Okay, they've got enough money, and they'll be all right. This man is telling lies. If you want to get ahead, and all you need is a small loan of $1 million. All I'd had was a small loan of $1 million. Okay, that my dad gave me. Yeah, and some bootstraps, and you're good.
To fund the government, but for operating in that world, taxing the rich is no problem. The other thing is that if you're worried about capital flight, then make laws to inhibit capital flight.
Yeah.
Because every one of those billionaires who decides I'm going to live in a better tax haven in wherever it is, I don't know, Dubai or
Canary
Lisbon
Islands.
or
Yeah.
the Canary Islands or in Britain or wherever it is. I don't know where it's most favorable. You simply say, okay, well, incidentally, the homes you own here or the the privileges that you're getting from being an American citizen, well, we're going to tax you on that. Like there are ways of inhibiting capital flight. Should we watch this Matt Walsh video since we're talking about taxation and we're talking about
Sure.
distribution to the rich? This is clip number 12 on Matt Walsh's Daily Wire show.
And did you notice something about the tax brackets?
Pause it. Can I just say one thing? Pause it. I always forget how flashy his new logo is. It really is super fashy.
I mean, honestly, when I look at it, it looks like it's a ski resort or something like that. Like, here, come to Vermont.
Actually, that does look like a pretty ski resort. Like you can
Right.
see the reflection of the mountains on the.
This guy has the biggest PDF file beard energy. Oh man. I've got news for you. If you don't know who this is, I've got news for you. Whew. This is the same guy that was interested in the fertility of 16-year-olds, I believe was. Yeah. Looks like an REI logo. Yeah, it does, actually. It actually kind of does. You're right. The glasses ain't helping. No, it's just that he literally... this is the same dude that was talking about, like, the fertility of 16-year-olds, so... Whew. Yeah. Yeah, that guy. Yep, that's the one. Yep, that's him.
The lake in front of it. It's like Lake Tahoe or something.
I know. I want to go there, but then I see Matt Walsh's creepy beard, and much less so.
Yeah, you run for the hills.
And did you notice?
Yep, that's him.
Something about the tax brackets? These rich people are not all billionaires. In fact, almost none of them are billionaires. There are only like 700 billionaires in the whole country. Billionaires are basically irrelevant. They barely.
Yeah, only. Bro, do you know how much money and power these 700 billionaires have? In a country of 360 something million people, okay? Like, how are people sold on this? Like, I'm genuinely, like, baffled. So, like, the idea that is well, there's only 700 of them, so you don't need to target them because there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of other people in this country, and you're specifically target, like, they're barely irrelevant because there's only 700 of them. Like, come on, man. Come on. Second country with most billionaires is China, and the U.S. is double over China.
Barely exist. 700 in a country of 330 million people. You could confiscate all of their money, take all of it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
You could put a tax rate of 100% on billionaires, and it would fund the government for like a week or something.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. Corporal Fly, I know who you're talking about. Is it Amon? I think it's like this, right? Or no, is it like this? It's probably spelled like that. That only literally means twice over the second having place with the most billionaires. Yep. Right the first time. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I highly recommend that channel too, by the way. If you haven't seen this channel, especially during spooky season, especially if you haven't seen oh shoot. Let me go back. If you haven't seen this channel before, Amon Animations.
What happens if you have another episode like?
I highly recommend this channel. Don't worry, I'll post it for the chat if you haven't seen it. consider checking them out. Don't get me wrong, but it's on its own, sure, whatever, but it give us a good reason to maybe provide meaningful taxation on the wealthiest.
I mean, the government spends $16 billion a day. Okay, a day. So you could take Elon Musk's entire net worth.
Pause it for a second.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Again, I just want to say this talking point is deployed because they want to tie it. They want to say that they want to tie it into this notion of like, to fund the government. We have money to do things. We are sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Israel and Ukraine. You can argue that, one or the other is valid, or both are valid, or both are invalid. It doesn't matter. That money, like, we didn't have where did that money come from? We had the money to do these things. And so the game that they play is that, like, you could tax all the billionaires and it wouldn't fund the government for more than a couple.
Yeah, so, like, exactly. Like, the game here is because Matt Walsh is part of the Daily Wire, and the Daily Wire is just a propaganda apparatus for the capitalist class. That's what it is. For the oligarch class. That's what Ben Shapiro's entire media empire is built on. So yeah, of course. Like, on top of Matt Walsh's, overt fascism, you're gonna get propaganda like this. Like, oh, you shouldn't target the billionaires. You shouldn't target the billionaires. They're irrelevant, right? There's only 700 of them.
Couple weeks.
It'd be great for the economy.
It would be great for the economy. There is absolutely no reason to have 700 kings, essentially, who operate at a completely different plane of existence, who have no notion of necessities or needs, or operate with political impunity because of all this money.
That money wouldn't go towards public good. Foreign aid to countries literally is not the reason public services are underfunded. No, I think he was just making a point about, like, the point is that it doesn't matter. Like, you should tax billionaires. And he brought up just that as an example. Like, we have the money. It comes from somewhere.
Don't need those people. They don't need to exist. There is no sort of natural state where there are individuals who have that much more power in society than other people, except for basically kings who have these large armies. All right, continue.
Okay, a day. So you could take Elon Musk's entire net worth,
and they put it on something that is not really affecting that issue. That taxes isn't what funds the government.
And reduce him to poverty, which I know the left would love to do that. It would fund the government for what? 2 weeks? 2 weeks. So the billionaires don't matter. They don't really matter.
They do. They do.
When it comes to it's marginal. They're spending so much money, and there are so few billionaires that it's a drop.
Taxing the rich doesn't mean ridding them of wealth. That's BS. I agree. That's the name of the game here. That's the name of the game here. But it could. Like, it could rid them of their wealth. I mean, to a degree, I suppose, but, like, really, like, if we increase, like, I don't know, if we increase, like, the tax bracket for people like Elon Musk, like, would he genuinely be impacted? Unless like we're talking about like a serious like 100% like, okay, dude, you're not making any like all that money past like the $1 billion point is just gonna get like taxed at 100%. Then like, okay, but that's not what's happening here. The argument is whether or not like these small tax increments that Harris was proposing to what is it? What was he complaining about? I can't even remember what he was complaining about at the beginning. Tax bracket would not affect billionaires as they don't have any income. I'm not talking about how the U.S. tax system works. I'm dreaming of a better world. Oh, okay, gotcha. They do loans based on asset. Well, proposed taxes that he's complaining about to shadow box with the intent of protecting billionaires. That's what's happening here. I mean, we can go back to the original grievance here.
And did you notice something about the tax brackets?
Pause it. Can I just say one thing? Pause it.
Put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country.
Defeat confiscation, Kamala.
I always forget how flashy.
Then I see
Billionaires. In fact, almost none of them are billionaires. There are only like 700 billionaires in the whole country. Billionaires are basically irrelevant. They barely exist.
Because absolutely.
Left would love to do that. It would fund the government taxes.
Homes you own here, or is fact that it's structured towards those people, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the reflection they're sending.
2 weeks. So the billionaires don't matter. They don't really matter.
I think the original grievance was price caps. He's talking about taxes. That was the previous clip with Donald Trump. Never mind. To avoid paying obvious taxes, a lot of CEOs don't really get their money from salary. It's just stock or loans. It's to avoid personal wealth tax. Yep.
Comes to it's marginal. They're spending so much money, and there are so few billionaires that it's a drop in the bucket. These taxes on the rich.
Incidentally, the taxes being proposed on the rich would be a drop in the bucket. Like playing his game, incidentally raising the taxes, incidentally playing his game. If that were to be the case, like it would be a drop in the bucket for them. Literally twice over the second country with most billionaires. Context. Yep. I'm so ready for the election to be over with, then we can start to do the real work. Yeah, I think, well, less than a month to go, or just about, less than a month, right? Less than a month to go. Got my ballot and need to study it. It is progressive tax. You pay a higher rate only that part above the threshold. Three weeks from tomorrow. So I hope this issue is gonna die down somewhat after November. I don't know about that. I don't know about that one.
Are mostly screwing over people who are not billionaires. In fact, a huge number of these people are not even millionaires. Okay, again, the top tax rate, you're talking about $600,000 for a single individual. These are not so these aren't even millionaires. And while that's happening,
in the 1960s, max tax bracket was 90%. Whew.
These idiot liberals are pretending that actually somehow taxes. By some voodoo magic, public school teachers are paying more in taxes than people who have to fork over 40% of their income. to the federal government. And we went over the
If you make over 600K income per year, if you make 600K per year, your net worth is definitely in the millions. 600K a year? Whew. Man, just 600K in 1 year would be like life-changing.
For this already, but higher income people, by that I mean, and the IRS means, more importantly, people who make 600K or more, not billionaires, not even close to billionaires.
Oh my God, pause it for a second.
Higher income people.
Yeah, like, yes, you get, like we could literally see, we now know how much Matt Walsh is making. It's over $600,000 and he's bemoaning and he's got to pay taxes. This is so oppressive to him.
Yeah, so I think Sam's picking up on something. He's complaining. That was a very specific number there. If you make 600K a year, if you do not have over $1 million in assets, you're really doing something wrong. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure helps you live comfortably in misery. I can't feel bad for the rich, but I do feel a bit hungry.
They're really getting. What is the percentage of people who make over 600,000 in this country? I mean, if the idea that there's only 750 billionaires, the percentage of people making over 600,000. Let's see if you can look that up.
It's not the top 1%, but it's definitely the top 5%.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we're talking about a tiny percentage of the country who are really just taking it on the chin. Go ahead.
Yeah.
By that I mean, and the IRS means, more importantly, people who make 600K or more, not billionaires, not even close to billionaires. Higher income people pay for almost everything. They get the worst deal by a long shot. They get screwed the most.
That's not true at all. The way this tax system is set up, like that is just a flat out lie. It doesn't take a lot of Googling to figure this out either. Matt Walsh is just literally lying. Correct. Wah. Correct. Yeah, but the way this tax excuse me, the way this tax system works currently, no. Matt Walsh is literally lying.
By our current tax system, and it's not even close. Okay? I know it's not a popular thing. It's not very populist to say that, oh, boo-hoo, someone who makes 600K is getting robbed by the government. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, boo-hoo. It's a bad thing. Boo-hoo. It is a bad thing. It's actually outrageous.
No, it's not.
No,
the
it's
government
not.
is just straight up stealing nearly half of the...
Taxation is theft. Yeah, got it. How much of a rise are they talking about? What percent? Enough to make Matt Walsh cry about it, apparently. By the way, he would still be making six figures. Relative to his needs or income in general, that shit is basically far less for anyone earning just above minimum wage.
Incidentally, the tax rate is lower for those people who are married. I should say, that's $600,000 per individual. $600,000 per individual.
This is the entire game. This is the existence of Daily Wire is underwritten by billionaires and millionaires who want to be taxed less. But if we want to move on, people
right, that's exactly why Matt Walsh is going into this, right? And I'd said that before. I don't remember the exact bracket off the top of my head, but the margin is lesser. Think of the caviar. Think of the doggies.
You might remember this. This is the guy Asher Edelman, who was one of the inspirations for Gordon Gekko in the movie Wall Street. And this is him in 2016 when he's in.
Correct.
They invited him on MSNBC, and he surprised people by endorsing Bernie Sanders. His explanation for what happens when you redistribute money in economy and why you should want a Bernie Sanders style policy is, I think, pretty easy to understand, much more easier than what Walsh just gave us.
Why is that? What
No question.
policies?
Well, I think it's quite simple again. If you look at something called velocity of money, you guys know what that is, I presume. That means how much gets spent and turns around. When you have the top 1% getting money, they spend 5-10% of what they earn. When you have the lower end of the economy getting money, they spend 100 or 110% of what they earn. As you've had a transfer of wealth to the top and a transfer of income to the top, you have a shrinking consumer base, basically.
Yeah, it's just like basic economy, right? Like it's basic like understanding of how economics works, at least in this context of the economic system that we live under. He's right. He's right.
And you have a shrinking velocity of money. Bernie is the only person out there who I think is talking at all about both fiscal stimulation and banking rules that will get the banks to begin to generate lending again as opposed to speculation.
Okay.
So from an economic point of view, it's straightforward.
And this is, you know, we talk about this when we say things like a rich man only buys one loaf of bread a day. They are hoarding money. And not only do we see this in the context of if you give, there's 80% of Americans out there that if you give them a tax break, or you give them a raise, or you give them a stimulus check, or you give them
they're going to spend it. Like that's how this works. They're going to spend it. They're going to buy things. They're going to buy food. They're going to pay mortgage. They're going to buy whatever, they need. They need that money to buy stuff. That's how the economy works. It's not socialism. This is common sense when we talk about balance. Henry Ford paid his workers back in the day relatively well, as he wanted them to be able to buy his cars. Exactly. Like, legitimately, that was the reason why he did what he did, because he understood that, like, granted, even though he was a gigantic POS, he understood that, like, in order to sell stuff, the workers need to be able to afford the stuff. Right? Like, that's kind of how this works.
Child tax credit. That money is going to go out the door, and it's going to go into somebody else's pocket, and they're going to put it into somebody else's pocket, and that's what he's talking about with the velocity of money. We also see this dynamic in the context of Social Security. That's why we have a system that was designed to touch on 91% to tax 91% of the income that sloshes around in our economy. But because you have people hoarding money,
right?
These ultra rich, even these even more rich.
Correct, the simulacra. He paid them reasonably well to keep them from organizing.
That money is not touched. It's out of the system, essentially. It's just sitting in some investment situation. It's just paying capital gains. It's not being implicated by wage taxes. This is the bottom line. But that concept of velocity of money, I mean, you're talking about from an economic perspective. Again, we get back to all governments redistribute wealth. The question is to whom is going to have that wealth? Is it going to go to a small group of people? 0.01% of the population, 0.2% of the population, 2% of the population, 5% of the population, 10% of the population, or is it going to go to 80% of the population?
Matt Walsh would like the former.
Is it going to be spread out more evenly? And when it's spread out more evenly, it is far more likely to be spent. And like this guy says, it expands the consumer base, which is what our economy is based upon.
Right. And when Matt Walsh talks about, there's only 700 billionaires in America, like, it's not like we're talking about some, I don't know, really small minority of people who get outsized attention from right-wing media. In fact, some people make whole documentaries about a really, really small percentage of the population to try to demonize them. And that group of people doesn't have any power whatsoever. The 700, I'm talking about trans people, by the way.
Right.
The 700 billionaires that he's referring to, you know why that's a focus of the left or anybody that wants a society that's more fair? Because of the insane amount of power that they have.
Yeah.
That's the difference between, well, exactly, from the money. But that's the difference between right-wing politics about this kind of thing and left-wing politics, is because they're going after a fraction of the country that has no power. And when people talk about taxing billionaires, that's about going after the powerful to change our society for the better.
Back then, when the pay difference between worker and managers and executives was nowhere near as high, except for the owner.
This is you can look at policy like student loan debt, which we have to talk about in morals from a moral perspective. But economically, those payments going to bankers like Mohila and stuff, or they could be going into your local community to help maybe a contractor build up your kitchen or something like that. But instead, we're just leeching all this money through policy to bankers. It's people should think about things this way.
We should say that I think it was in 2016, the
oh my goodness. Wow. The latest grift, guys. Go get your Trump train.
2016, maybe it was a little bit later. The chairman of the Home Builders Association of America said the number one thing that was inhibiting new home building was student debt. That was almost 10 years ago. It's only gotten worse. All right, let's just listen to Matt Walsh, essentially, grease the wheels for his patrons to give more money.
Someone who makes $600K is getting robbed by the government. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, boo-hoo. It's a bad thing. It is a bad thing. It's actually outrageous.
No, it's not.
The government is just straight up stealing nearly half of the income of millions of American families.
Is not stealing.
Millions of American workers who have worked extremely hard to get to where they are, and they have families to take care of, only to get ruthlessly punished for it.
You're punished.
Ruthlessly, by the way.
They are the victims of the tax.
Ruthlessly. Explain to me, by the way, I don't know, actually genuinely what the actual tax bracket would fall under, but we had harsher progressive taxation, and trust me, the rich people were gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Pointless concern trolling doesn't work either.
System. Okay? I mean, they just are.
Victims.
People who make 40, 50, 60K, the average American income, they do pretty well when it comes to federal income taxes. They're getting screwed in a bunch of other ways. Everybody is. Every American is getting screwed by the system because we have an incompetent, corrupt, wasteful government and federal bureaucracy that screws everybody over. No question about it. But so we're all getting a raw deal. But my point is, when it comes to the federal income tax system specifically,
when it comes to a very specific
higher income people.
Yeah. So clearly, Matt Walsh is doing his damnness to protect the oligarchs. Man, he is doing Olympic levels of mental gymnastics and pretzel twisting to avoid talking about the overreaching problem here.
Have by far the most to complain about.
In terms of my neurological capacity.
I mean, it's just such an absurd argument because, yes, within the, and I would not use the word complain, I would use whine. Within, if you're looking specifically at the top federal marginal income tax rates, then people who are making the most amount of money can whine about it the most. But if you look at every other metric within society, the cost of healthcare, the cost of education, the lack of access in some instances to healthcare or to a high.
I like that one, Wolf Glenn. Reminds me of no joke. A man goes to his priest. He just got a huge raise. The man tithes, so the man is not pleased when that the church is going to take $20K more a year. The priest asked the man to pray with him. Please, God, please help him to make less money.
High quality education. The implications, the percentage that rent takes from all those people who are not making that money, the size of the percentage, like the percentages of just survival.
Yeah, it costs a lot of money to be poor. Okay? It costs a lot of money to be poor. Yes.
The cost of just survival is so much higher for people who make less than $600,000. I'm only using that figure because he does. That less than $600,000 than over $600,000. That's just the reality of it. And he could say, "Oh, well, but that's the private market." No. That is how we decide to set up society.
Yeah.
There is no law that says that.
Just to be clear, there's no such thing as like this fantastical idea of like the invisible hand of the market or whatever. It's just not a thing. Everything is set by everything is set by the government. Like, that's how this works.
That medicine needs to be commodified. Well, I guess there is actually a law, but it's one that we could change. It's certainly one that we could change. We could add new laws that say we're going to decommodify healthcare. We're going to decommodify housing. We're going to decommodify the cost of childcare.
Oh, shoot.
We're going to decommodify.
Yeah, you're leaning toward you're leaning too much into the socialism, Sam. Okay.
The cost of home healthcare. We're going to decommodify nursing homes. I mean, these are all things that we could do. It's just a question of the choices that we make as a society.
Yeah, these are policy. These are policy decisions, right? Like these are policy decisions.
These are all things that can be done. We cut child poverty nearly in half over the course of a 12-month period. That is proof positive that we could do all these things that we're talking about. Yeah. We just choose not to. And in some instances, folks like Matt Walsh will cry about it and say that it's unfair.
Yeah, off-world colonists. Yeah. It's absurd. Like that is just absurd. How is this like a thing? Like how is that possible? How is that like okay? That we have scenarios like this, where you have things like this. It's so absurd and inefficient. It doesn't have to be this way. Yeah, just don't ever get sick or have an accident. Easy peasy.
And in other instances, it's just like it's not possible to do. How you pay for this?
Yeah,
you can pay for it. We've done it. We got rid of child poverty by nearly half in 12 months. It's absurd that we even can have these arguments with a straight face is what we're capable of doing. But for Matt Wallace, instead of whining about that, how come we didn't continue to do that?
I agree. Your neighborly sheet poster. Private equity firms, they invest and buy and liquidate hospitals and redesign is basically a few dozen corporations. Yeah, I could have sworn we saw a video about something like this in the More Perfect Union, about like how insurance works, how hospitals work, how just convoluted the billing system is within the healthcare industry. Like, and it's really a problem.
He's whining People are making over $600,000 really taking it on the chin in terms of federal income taxes.
Yeah. Okay, dude.
It's
I'm crying for them.
All right, folks. We done?
I guess Matt Walsh doesn't want George Soros to be taxed. That's kind of suspicious.
Hey, folks, don't forget.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, he's there to protect the he's there to protect the oligarchs. All right, folks, let's get into our main kind of storyline that we're gonna go through, and stay with me, folks, because all of this is going to be like wrapped up into one thing. Okay, all of these stories are all just one big story, so to speak. I agree. I agree, Wolfglen. I agree. Just having things like universal healthcare or universal services that are crucial, like education, healthcare, housing, food. All of these ends up being more cost efficient in the long run. But like, it's not for us, right? Like, that's not the way this is set up, unfortunately. The way this is set up is designed specifically to benefit people who are wealthy. That's it. That's where this story begins and ends, right? Like, obviously, as you mentioned, it is more efficient. It is more cost efficient. It costs less than makes money. You do not have to be nice to others. Yeah, but unfortunately, it touches my bottom line. So I can't, as the owner of like one of like the 5 major insurance companies, I can't really have that. So no. You see, like, we're, you know, in a logical scenario, like, we would all be thinking this way, but that's not what's happening here. We're not encouraging that. The bottom, where it begins and ends, is it's touching somebody very powerful's bottom line, and that's it. End of story, right? Capitalism, the worship of capital, or something. Yes. The future depression. So stay with me, folks. All of this is just like, so will be all encompassing one story, kind of like, so stay with me on this timeline.
What do you think happened with the hurricanes?
I think there was an upcoming storm, and then I think government set in with whatever it is that they do. I don't know all the specifics about it. I'm not an expert in cloud seeding or whatever it is that they use to magnify the storm to a higher degree to disturb a land.
Yeah, so cloud seeding is not going to deter or increase the storm. We're talking about a system that has so much energy, right? Like, it would be impressive the amount of energy it would take for us to do anything, to any of those storms. But go on.
That may be wanted for lithium that Harris's husband is partaking in. Like, there's been people out there, if they have an Alexa, I don't know if you've heard that, and they've asked what caused Milton.
Okay.
You can go on there now. It's already predicted the number of deaths and the amount of it's already predicted it. On a Google, it won't do that. If you ask it about Helene, it'll tell you the government actively used seed clouding. This is before Helene even happened.
Why would a country want to have a hurricane be strong and hit its own country?
Because they want to control certain places. And if you're looking at where the hurricane's going, it's a lot of red states. If you're looking at the counties in North Carolina that were hit, there were all of them. 26 out of 28 of those counties were for Trump. They're doing whatever they can because they can't rig the election.
Even control the weather?
I'm sorry. Like, this is just like, I have to laugh. I have to laugh because like these people legitimately believe this and are causing active and real harm in real life. They shouldn't have put their states in the path of the storm. Just remember this next time when you think MTG is an idiot, there's always a number. I mean, this is pushing it. Yes, that's the problem. She can vote and affect change. That's the problem. Like, you know, it would be one thing if like we're just talking to like an isolated fringe group. At least there's nobody like this in Congress. Womp womp womp. You know, it'd be one thing if like we're talking to like a fringe like group of people, right? But like it's not, and that's a problem, and it's widespread. And so much so that it's it's causing serious problems. That we'll get to like as we progress in this story. So just stick with me. Ask this lady why so many black countries are in flood. Black counties are in flood zones and valleys. She'll say it's woke nonsense. Yep.
Yes.
It doesn't matter to her. The truth doesn't matter. She's already living in like the fictional like flat earth reality that she's built in her head. That's that.
Your ears are not deceiving you, my friends. You just heard a Trump supporter tell Jason Selvig of The Good Liars that she unironically believes that Democrats are not only controlling the weather, but they are controlling the weather specifically to rig the election against Donald Trump. Very healthy and normal country we're living in. Now, I wish that I could say that this was a fringe conspiracy theory and that was the only person who's ever said something so absurd, but within the span of about a week or so, that conspiracy theory has become arguably mainstream in some conservative circles, thanks to prominent conservatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are claiming that Democrats can indeed control the weather and that it's ridiculous for anyone to say that it can't be done. Now, Marjorie made that post after popular accounts on Twitter made semi-viral tweets sarcastically talking about how elites would never create hurricanes in order to interfere with the election, wink, wink. And the claim that weather is being controlled to subvert democracy was parroted by individuals like Candace Taylor, a GOP leader in Georgia who also happens to be a flat earther, unsurprisingly. But I mean, this claim is now being echoed in other viral posts.
Hey, Bond, thank you for the 40 biddies. I appreciate that. Remember they thought the same thing when Sandy hit and they said it was so red counties couldn't vote for Romney, even though that Sandy obliterated New York City, but Obama still won. Yeah, reality does not matter to these people.
On Twitter, such as this one, where the user says, "No hurricane here in Texas. It's on the same ocean as Florida. Why? Texas is not a swing state." But this is one of many examples. Cat Turd, for example, a major account on Twitter with millions of followers, is discouraged.
About that time Trump moved the hurricane with that Sharpie. Inside job. Agreed.
Urging people from listening to meteorologists since they couldn't anticipate wind speeds with the utmost.
Yeah, no, this is a real tweet. This is a real tweet, by the way. You can go on his account. Wait, Florida's a swing state? No. No, but it doesn't matter to these people, Wolf Glenn. Okay, like, listen, we're not operating from a place of reality. So like, it doesn't matter. Like, obviously, like, all it takes is just like touching it with some questions about how this could even be possible, right? And it just immediately falls apart because this is delusional. This is delusional. But in any case, people are listening to somebody named Cat Turd and checks out. Yeah, that Florida should be a swing state, but the Dems really failed the state. Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Most specificity. And in this viral tweet, this user juxtaposes a video of Biden shooting down the notion that he can control the weather with a video of former CIA Director John Brennan supposedly confirming that it can indeed be done. The problem is that he's not saying what that person thinks he's saying. He is talking about the potential for geoengineering technology in the form of cloud seeding to one day hopefully mitigate the effects of climate change. But the technology cannot be replicated on a mass scale, nor can it be used to control hurricanes or alter their trajectories or increase their intensity. It's like saying that middle schoolers can control the weather because they created tornadoes in 2-liter jugs in their science class. It's genuinely nonsensical. But the problem is that the explanation is just further evidence to them that they're right about this. And I say this because they then started to link cloud seeding to chemtrails, and those posts went viral immediately, and Marjorie Taylor Greene also shared memes supposedly proving her right that featured a list of nonsensical weather modification patents, and she subsequently shared an article from a right-wing website that supposedly bolsters her bullshit claim. But I mean, if you click that link, you'll see more fear-mongering about cloud seeding. It also talks about studies regarding geoengineering, which are real, but not proof that Democrats control the weather. And you'll also see an interview by anti-vax conspiracy theorist RFK Jr., where he interviews someone from geoengineeringwatch.org. Very compelling. And this isn't necessarily a new conspiracy theory among right-wingers, since Trump reportedly wanted to bomb China when he was president because he thought that they were using a, quote, hurricane gun on us. But it is the first time that they're tying this conspiracy theory to their claims about the election being stolen, which is orders of magnitude more delusional than their claims about Democrats creating COVID to win the last election. But I mean, if Democrats were so omnipotent and malevolent to the point where they're creating hurricanes to disenfranchise Trump voters,
right, like what would be the point of having elections, right? What I understand all cloud seeding does is force cloud to rain water. It's carrying nothing to do with the energy contained in a hurricane. Yeah, I mean, like, to seriously affect a hurricane, the amount of energy is just like, it's just off the charts. These storms generate like absurd amount of energy. Like, we can't do anything about them, as far as we know. Florida's hard to make a swing state. The individual cities can be blue, but their state government is hard-nosed Republican.
Voters in red states, wouldn't it be easier to just rig the election the good old-fashioned way by limiting the number of voting machines in precincts that lean Republican, or by purging eligible voters from the rolls, or by refusing to certify the results in counties they lose, or by using alternative slates of fraudulent electors in states that they lost? You know, the way that Republicans rig elections. I mean, wouldn't that just be easier than literally creating entire hurricanes? Well, of course not, because that would require critical thinking skills to these people, which they don't have. And all of the Republican politicians and influencers who sold conspiracy theories to their followers are now beginning to realize that they've created a monster that they can no longer control. And I say this because Elon Musk, who frequently shares conspiracy theories about Democrats rigging elections, shot down the idea that Democrats control the weather and denied that this is even a widespread belief, saying nobody actually thinks Dems control the weather, Lamau. But he quickly got a wake-up call when some of his own followers reminded him that they actually do think that Democrats control the weather, writing, not control, but let's stop pretending that they aren't actively attempting to modify it. It's literally documented at this point as a fact.
Oh, yeah, dude, true. Very documented. Florida was a swing state for quite a while, voted for Obama twice. Most statewide elections, governor and Senate, have been within a few points until very recently. Yep, and as you pointed out, I think the Dems really have dropped the ball there.
This person says it's not Dems per se, but globalists, which for those who don't know, this is code for Jewish people.
Yeah.
They then link to an InfoWars video, very reputable. This person says not the Dems, but they, whoever they are, have been capable of steering storms for 30 years. There are many patents from our government and others. It can be done, spaceman. This person says it's
so
funny.
Just to be clear, I think we went over this the other day. So just to be clear, like, having patents, I think it was actually you, the simulacra, that pointed this out. Having patents doesn't mean the patent you are filing for works. Anyways, yeah, Elon, don't be an idiot. So does this mean the Terry Crews will be president soon? You know, cons are effed when Elon is the voice of reason on hurricane control. A bunch of laymen talking about stuff they have no clue about. Yep.
Over the last year, I've gone full circle, and I actually do believe that it's possible the Democrats control the weather. I never would have thought that before, but after everything I've seen, I would not put it past them.
Oh, yeah.
And then this person just tells him that he needs to listen to his new fans who are telling him that it can be done. And those are just a couple of examples. We barely scratched the surface in terms of the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Jewish people controlling the weather. But I mean, to be fair, not everyone who replied to Elon Musk confronted him about, I guess, his woke belief that Democrats aren't controlling the weather. But we've reached the point where it is genuinely controversial for conservatives to say that, which is sad. For example, Republican Carlos Gimenez, who is another conspiracy theorist who objected to the certification of the 2020 election, said that fellow election denier Marjorie Taylor Greene needed to have her head examined for claiming that Democrats can control the weather, only to then be attacked and accused of being part of the
I put the Trump Sharpie, the Sharpie Gate picture up.
Ball himself. So as you can see, it is now controversial to claim that Democrats cannot control the weather, just as it's controversial to say that you shouldn't drink raw milk or that you should take the COVID vaccine. But other individuals who also spread conspiracy theories like Ron DeSantis is having to come out and say, no, we shouldn't listen to these conspiracy theories about the hurricane. And he has to say this because it's actually impeding their ability to mitigate damage from Hurricane Milton. Maybe he wants to play along.
Yeah, and trust me, we'll get into that. Actually, I think we did play that, or maybe I talked about it. He said something to the effect of like, oh, don't pay attention to whatever online. But like, he wasn't very specific. He kind of vaguely gestured to it because like, obviously the people who are pushing this are his fan base and he can't like publicly call them out. So yeah, he was just kind of vaguely gesturing to like, don't believe stuff online.
And attack Democrats, but he can't because this is actually a threat to them.
We live in an era where if you put out crap online,
you
can get a lot of people to share it and you can monitor.
Who, Ron? Who is putting this crap online? Because I've got the answer to that. And I suspect you do too. And I suspect you do too. You just can't really talk about that because that's your fan base, Ron. Yeah, he knows from experience.
Monetize that. That's just the way it is. But if you're hearing something that's just outrageous, just know, in the state of Florida, none of that stuff would ever fly. Be careful.
Wasn't this the same guy that like hired a literal like sports journalist to replace a data scientist? I'm just saying. So being expert in a subject and possibly an elite bad, but when did having knowledge and intelligence become a bad thing? Well, when it comes to like in the service of fascism, having intelligence and critical thinking is like the worst thing. Is the worst thing. He did. He replaced. Oh God. Let me see. After he fired Rebecca Jones, she was replaced. I can't remember who replaced her, but he was some. He was some like some dude that had nothing to do with like vaccines. Yeah, the guy with the white boots. Some people have always tried to incite hatred towards intelligent people. It's just not until fairly recently we started putting the dumbest of humanity in charge. I mean, like, but, in this context, I think in this context, I think it requires like these fascists require this, right? Like it's actually necessary for this to work for them. Fascists are incredibly anti-intellectual. They have to be. Looking and watching PBS cover weekend brutal attack on Gaza. I think I'm gonna throw up. Yeah. Corporal Fly. It's not. It's disgusting. If you've seen the images that have happened in the last couple of days, I think during the weekend, it's just like it's the kind of stuff that like just makes you want to log off the internet forever. It's horrifying. The problem is you have a lot of science that can hurt profits. Look at alternative energy since science and oil companies. Yeah, I don't disagree. Off-world colonists. Yep.
Full about the nonsense that gets circulated, and just know that the more titillating it is, the more likely somebody is making money off of it, and they don't really give a damn about the well-being and safety of the people that are actually in the eye of this storm. It's all just trying to monetize what they're doing.
He's right. And this notion that Democrats can control the weather is one of many conspiracy theories that is being pushed about these hurricanes. But the problem is that Ron DeSantis and his ilk are part of the main spreaders of conspiracy theories. He's the one who helped condition the Republican Party's base to reject science and reject the advice from experts. So, I mean, after you've implied that it was dangerous for them to take the COVID vaccine after the government recommended it, why would they listen to FEMA, the federal government, when they're being told to evacuate? What if it's some ploy from the federal government to take their home and give it to an immigrant? I mean, the climate of paranoia was fostered in part by people like Ron DeSantis, who insinuated that Democrats are rigging elections and that queer people are all grooming kids. So, I mean, while I appreciate him debunking rumors about the hurricane, he absolutely bears a lot of responsibility for the Alex Jonesification of the Republican.
Right, and like that's what I'm pointing out. Like he can't, because that's his base. He can't go around saying like, "Hey, all of you Republican MAGA people that are spreading this nonsense, you need to stop." Okay, he can't do that because like those are his people. That's my problem. That's my thing.
Party. And it'd be bad enough if this was just a stupid thing that people believed that was harmless, but that's not the case. This is causing real problems in the world. And Twitter isn't the only culprit, to be fair, but before claims about Democrats controlling the weather blew up ahead of Milton's arrival, Media Matters detailed conservative threats of violence on TikTok against FEMA officials in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. For example, there was one viral TikTok threatening to kill FEMA officials for treason if they withhold aid or don't let people into certain areas to help. Another celebrated the false claim that a FEMA agent was assaulted and also suggested that this could be the start of a new civil war in the event the government declares martial law and has to send in the National Guard to protect FEMA agents. Another called for other North
Give me stupid or give me death
Carolinians to organize a convoy since FEMA wasn't letting them help, and suggested that this was all being done at the behest of immigrants for some reason. And there were many other examples, but the Institute for Strategic Dialogue found that Twitter was another hotbed for anti-Semitism and threats directed at public officials. And listen, if you live in an area that's affected by the hurricanes, it is very, very stressful. You could lose everything. So I understand why emotions are high. And if you feel like the government isn't doing enough and they're also not letting you help, it's easy to see how things escalate so quickly if people are already predisposed to conspiratorial thinking. But I mean, the reason why FEMA officials might discourage people from helping is because these people don't know what they're doing. Don't get me wrong, I think it's commendable to want to help your neighbors, that's good, but the problem is that these people who try to help either end up getting in the way of first responders or they end up endangering themselves.
Yeah, which takes away resources. FEMA still hasn't given me a Hobbit home. Now you got both. What do you want next? Hey, Elron, I didn't say hello. It's not even January 6th, so we're going to pause here. We're going to pause here because this is where, like, we need to take that turn of where he was talking about. Because of the threats that Mike Figueroa was talking about. Well, now, no worries. Neither did I. No, it's all good. FEMA pauses aid in North Carolina amid armed militia threat. Yep, a thing that is happening right now. The Federal Emergency Management Agency said it made operational adjustments in North Carolina over the weekend and temporarily paused aid in parts of the state amid concerns that an armed militia is threatening government workers. The Washington Post reported that FEMA had advised federal responders in Rutherford County to stand down and evacuate the county immediately on Saturday, citing an email with an official with the U.S. Forest Service, which is supporting recovery efforts in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. The email said the National Guard troops have encountered trucks of armed militia, saying they were out hunting FEMA. In a Sunday post on Facebook, Ashe County Sheriff Phil Howell said FEMA had paused their process as they are assessing threats. A spokesperson for FEMA told Newsweek on Monday that the agency had made changes to its recovery efforts to ensure the safety of staff and survivors. FEMA continues to support communities impacted by Helene and help survivors apply for assistance. For the safety of our dedicated staff and disaster survivors, we are helping. FEMA has made some operational adjustments. Disaster recovery centers will continue to be open as scheduled. Survivors continue to register for assistance, and we continue to help the people of North Carolina with their recovery. That's my state, Darwin. Okay, cops, time to use that extreme use of force you like doing on innocent people on the malicious. That's a good one. That's a good one. For the safety of our dedicated staff, FEMA's made some operational adjustments. Disaster recovery centers will continue to open as scheduled. Survivors continue to register for assistance, and we continue to help the people of North Carolina with their recovery. Newsweek has learned that disaster survivor assistance teams are currently working at fixed locations in secure areas and are no longer going door to door out of an abundance of caution. The changes come as FEMA has been fighting misinformation since Helene hit Florida on September 26 before leaving a trail of destruction across several southeast states as it traveled north. FEMA gives those for free? No, man, it was a joke. Some on social media called for FEMA to be targeted after a rumor that devastated North Carolina town Chimney Rock was going to be seized and bulldozed by the government, circulated online despite local authorities and news outlets debunking that claim. Former President... Oh, man. Sorry, guys. Let's focus. Former President Trump and others have fueled false claims that FEMA has not been able to respond well because it diverted disaster relief funds to help migrants. That is not true. While FEMA administers a shelter and service program, funding comes from a separate pot of money funded by Congress and for the U.S. Custom Border Protection. Other false claims have been made, including that people taking federal relief money could see their land seized, or that the $750 is the most they'll ever get to rebuild. FEMA has set up a page on its website to combat misinformation and rumors. FEMA Administrator Dion Criswell told reporters that last week that false alarms were hurting worker morale as she urged people in hard-hit areas to accept the government assistance. We have thousands of people on the ground, not just federal, but our volunteers, our private sector. And frankly, the type of rhetoric is demoralizing to our staff and that have left their families to come here and help the people of North Carolina, and we will be here as long as they are needed. So that's very true, because somebody has already been arrested for this very thing. This is just like something that can't be. This is something that just can't be. A man was arrested for allegedly threatening to harm FEMA workers in North Carolina. The sheriff's office in Rutherford County announced on Monday today that they had arrested a man and charged him with allegedly threatening to harm FEMA workers in the area. William Parsons, 44, was charged with going to armed terror of the public, according to a statement from the sheriff's office. So yeah, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. This is very real. So all of this misinformation, all of this nonsense that these clowns have been spreading online during this whole time is actively harming people. Okay. This is having real world consequences, and like it just can't be. We just can't have this. In my opinion, I think that, in my opinion, I think that there just has to be, there just has to be something done, to kind of like combat this, because like it just can't be. This is not sustainable to have a society that that is like just operating on a completely different alternative reality. It just can't be. Like, Cognizant, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. I appreciate the tier 1 sub. I appreciate it. For 31 months. Look at that. Misinformation in America makes me sick too. It's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. And it's not just like, again, it's not just like a fringe group of people. This is legitimately having the tier 1 sub. Whoa! Hey, come back. This is legitimately having serious issues. People are being threatened. The people that need help are not going to get the help that they need. And it's all because of this misinformation that's coming from, right-wing outlets like the Daily Wire, like all these QAnon people, all these MAGA people. This just cannot fly, quite frankly. Mind you, during it's an era where we have access to information from everywhere all at once, and we could use it to educate ourselves and find all the big streaming sites and even news publications just misinformation and heavily biased opinions. Yeah, Fox News. And by the way, it's not just like FEMA. It's not just FEMA. It's just regular meteorologists are getting death threats. Regular meteorologists are getting death threats. As Hurricane Milton approached Florida, meteorologists are staying awake for days at a time trying to get vital life-saving information out to folks who will be affected. That's literally their job. But this year, several of them are telling Rolling Stones that they're increasingly having to take time out to quell the nonstop flow of misinformation during a particularly traumatic hurricane season. And some of them are doing it while being personally threatened. People are just so far gone. It honestly makes me lose all faith in humanity, said Washington, D.C.-based meteorologist Matthew Capucci in a phone interview conducted while he was traveling down to Florida for the storm. There's so much bad information floating around. The good information has been become obscure. Capucci says that he's noticed an enormous change on social media in the past 3 months, seemingly overnight. Ideas that once would have been ridiculed as very fringe or outlandish are suddenly becoming mainstream, and it's making my job more difficult. Anyways, like, the point being is that it's not just these FEMA folks who are out there trying to get people help, but it's just literally just weathermen. Yeah, anti-science and anti-intellectualism. We had rampant pro-Palestinian protests in NYC today, and the news presented as protests against Israel's rights to defense. Amazing. Yeah, well. Is it just the male meteorologists, or the chuds even threatening the pretty ones? Are like, oh, it doesn't matter. They're spreading, misinformation, and anybody that challenges their delusional worldview is targeted, right? Because like that's how this works. That's how this works. Also, the Helene situation. So they say FEMA ignored them or didn't allow private help. Both. They've said like several things, to be honest. Like it's hard to keep up with the amount of like stories and misinformation. But they've said that FEMA wasn't helping enough. Okay. They're saying that like FEMA was doing like sketchy financial stuff. So you shouldn't trust them. And FEMA is turning away help, which is not the case. Like they've been saying a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, they're saying FEMA stealing the supplies. They even said FEMA was attacked a supply tent or something like that, but like really it was an accident, and it wasn't FEMA. They said FEMA was threatening to arrest people. It's just so absurd. It's hard to even keep up with the amount of nonsense. With the amount of nonsense that's been spreading around. That is hard to keep up. From what I've seen, it's a logistical issue on the ground. Yeah, I agree. I agree that that's the case, especially with like communications being so difficult. The roads are completely destroyed. Like they're going to probably, like, after all this is said and done, and God knows when that is. God knows when that is. After all this is said and done, they're probably going to even have to like redo like maps. They're probably going to have to do redraw some maps in that area for the roads. So our chud's going to start attacking insurance folks in the near future when they realize insurance companies are going to scam them. Oh man, I don't know. I donated to an org doing air jobs in Nashville. Nice. Anyways, the point being is that like, yeah, it's bad. I think I got one more. FEMA just wants all supply distribution to go through them because FEMA are the ones that actually know where the supplies are needed. Right, like even the Department of Emergency or whatever, they put a... Hold on, I have it here. They put an announcement on how you can get supplies to them. Where is it? Here it is. If you plan to move people, resources, or equipment into Western North Carolina, you must coordinate with the plans and movements through the North Carolina Emergency Business Emergency Operations Center. You need to email them. You need to email them with what you're bringing and how you plan, like when are you going, what you're bringing, how you're bringing it, and where are you bringing it from, because the roads are screwed. So it's not just that they're not just like randomly like, doing this for the sake of it. It's just that like logistics are screwed, man. You need to coordinate with the people down there, right? I fear that as I get really old, I'll lose my minimum and become a chud. My mind even lose my mind. Oh man. It's happening. It's happening in real time, Wolfgang. Look at that. Actually, I lied. I think I have 2 stories left. This is dangerous misinformation, folks. It really is. All right, shifting gears here, folks. Trump sparks outrage after calling for the army to handle enemies on election day. Donald Trump has provoked an angry backlash from Democrats after calling for the U.S. armed forces to be turned against his political adversaries when voters go to the polls next month for the presidential election. In comments that added further fuel to fears of an authoritarian crackdown if he recaptures the White House, the Republican nominee said the military or National Guard should be deployed against opponents that he called the enemy within when the election takes place on November 5th. He singled out California Congressman Adam Schiff, who was the leader and the prosecutor in the ex-president's first impeachment trial, as posing a bigger threat to a free and fair election than foreign terrorists, illegal immigrants, or his usual prime targets for abuse. That's literally what the brown shirts did. Yep. FEMA is coordinating with the Forestry Service and making new roads into where the towns are so they can get supplies to where they are needed. Yeah. Trump's comments to Fox News in response to a question on possible election chaos triggered an angry reaction from Kamala Harris's campaign, which likened them to previous remarks that he would be a dictator on day one of a second presidency and his suggestions that the U.S. Constitution should be terminated to overturn the 2020 election result, which he falsely claimed that was stolen by Biden. Trump and the vice president are locked in a tight contest as election day looms. Most national polls put Harris narrowly ahead, but in the crucial swing states which will decide the election, the contest appears much tighter and offers Trump numerous paths to a potential victory. After initially saying the election chaos would not come from his side, Trump launched a this is a new word, vituperative attack on his opponents. I need to Google this.
Vituperative.
Gotcha. Attack on his opponents when the interviewer, Maria Bartiromo, raised the possibility of outside agitators or immigrants who had committed crimes. Of course. I think the bigger problems are with people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people. Trump said on Fox's Sunday morning futures program, quote, it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen. Ruth Ben-Gayat, a historian and expert on fascism at the New York University, told NBC that Trump was flagging up what he planned to do as president, which she compared to the strongman ruling templates of Viktor Orban, Narendra Modi, and Vladimir Putin, the leaders of Hungary, India, and Russia, respectively. Yeah, I mean, that kind of tracks, especially like the Viktor Orban blueprint. He's actually rehearsing, in a sense, what he would do, what he would be doing as head of state, which is what Orban does, Modi is doing, and Putin has long done. Trump has also turned his fire on Schiff, who is a candidate for the U.S. Senate in next month's poll. The thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics we have inside, like Adam Schiff. It was his second attack in 2 days on Schiff, who earned Trump's enmity when he was the ranking Democrat on the House of Representatives Intelligence Committee during his presidency, when he said there was evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia during the 2016 I imagine, election. The House later voted under Republican leadership to censor Schiff over his comments. At a rally in Coachella, California, state he virtually has no chance on winning on Saturday, Trump mocked Schiff's physical characteristics and labeled him a bigger threat than foreign adversaries, including the Chinese President Xi Jinping. She is somebody we can handle. The worst people are the enemies from within, the sleazebags, the guys that you're going to elect to Senate, Shifty Adam Schiff. He's a major lowlife. Like, man, how is this not like stochastic terrorism, right? How is this not stochastic terrorism? He said in California, you don't have anything like a voting booth. They take the ballots and they just send them all over the place. That's not true. They come back and they say, oh, somebody won by 5 million votes. No, that's literally just like a fabrication of reality. Schiff responded on Twitter by accusing Trump of inciting violence in the same manner he was widely accused of doing in January 6th when the insurrection happened. Dados, thank you for the follow. Yeah, it's only stochastic terrorism when you call Trump a Nazi. The only thing I accuse Schiff of is being too close to the intelligence community. I mean, like, listen, Schiff isn't like, you know, Schiff isn't like on the top of my list when it comes to politicians I like, okay? Give me 1 second, folks. 1 second. Sorry about that, folks. Had to take a quick phone call. Mousander, welcome. Alright, let's wrap this up, folks. Today, Trump threatened to deploy the military against enemies from within. The same thing is called me. Just as he incited a mob to attack the Capitol, he again stokes violence against those who oppose him. Very true. So as I was saying, like Adam Schiff is not at the top of the list of like my favorite politicians, but like this is not okay. This is not okay. Harris's campaign issued a more extensive condemnation. Quote, Donald Trump is suggesting that his fellow Americans are worse enemies than foreign adversaries, and he's saying that he would use the military against them. Yeah, I mean, he's threatening to use the military against political opponents. Like that's like point blank. Like that's it. Taken with his vow to be a dictator on day one, calls for termination of the Constitution, and plans to surround himself with sycophants who will give him unchecked, unprecedented power if he does return to office. This should alarm every American who cares about their freedom and security. What Donald Trump is promising is dangerous, and returning him to office is simply a risk Americans cannot afford. While Trump being out of power will be in no question this should alarm every American who cares about their freedom and security. What Donald Trump is promising is dangerous, and returning him to office is simply a risk Americans cannot afford. While Trump being out of power will be in no position to deploy troops on Election Day, his call for military power to quell political opposition is familiar, and recalling his demands that soldiers be deployed in the streets of Washington, D.C. in 2020 to disperse the thousands of demonstrators protesting the death of George Floyd. General Mark Milley, then the chairperson of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, reportedly came close to resigning over that demand. Milley, who has since fallen foul of Trump, is quoted in a new book by Bob Woodward. The journalist who, along with Carl Bernstein, helped expose the Watergate scandal of the 70s, is calling the ex-president a total fascist, and has voiced fears that he could be recalled to service and court-martialed if he returns to office. This is pretty freaking serious, man. This is pretty serious. He continues to call for the suppression of dissent via the military, which is like a massive red flag. Like there isn't enough red thread in the world to build the red flag necessary that's being culminated with all the things that he said. It's just not great. It's just not great. All right, folks, we got to talk about the rest of the stories. Well, not the rest of the story. The one story tomorrow. So we'll start with that one tomorrow. Because I got to get going. Hola! I got to head out. Folks, thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Another week of fun. Indeed, it begins. Folks, thank you all for joining. I appreciate you guys. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you for the new follows. Thank you for the biddies, and thank you for the subscription, Cognizant. I appreciate it. Thank you. Your support means everything. You guys are what keeps this channel growing. If you guys enjoy the content and want to keep it going, consider checking out the merch store. Consider hitting the exclamation mark tip to tip your streamer. Also, join the Discord, folks. We're doing some really cool stuff on the Discord. We're doing events this month on Spooky Month. Next Saturday, we're going to be streaming the Rocky Horror Show. So if you want to join and take a look at that, you can. It's just hit the join button. It's not it's free, and you get to enjoy some awesome stuff. And then on the last Saturday of the month, we'll be doing the official movie night event. And that, I believe, I'm pretty sure that I'm sold on doing the Nightmare Before Christmas. So I'm thinking like that's probably going to be the movie for the movie event. But in any case, join us. I've been lurking on the YouTubes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all. I appreciate the YouTube folks as well. You guys have been liking the stream. I see it. Thank you. Consider subscribing as well. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you. Thank you all. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Viana, hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Yeah, better than some super scary movie. I don't need that in my subconscious. No, that's for you watch that. at 3 o'clock in the morning by yourself. That's how you do it. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.